Welcome back, everyone, to the Here's Johnny podcast, where we take critical looks at the horror genre, focusing mainly on film and video games. My name is Larry.
And my name is Justin. If you want to email the show, you can email us at here'sjohnnypodcast@gmail.com or reach me on Twitter at PickleThing.
You can reach me on Twitter at BeaverLA or the show at Here's Johnny Cast. We also have a Discord where you can post questions to the show, have general discussion with other podcast listeners, amongst other things. We have a Facebook page that you can find by typing in Here's Johnny Podcast.
And you can take a look at our website, going to here'sjohnnypodcast.wixsite.com/horror. That's .wixsite.com/horror.
And if you are able, we have a Patreon where you can donate some money to the show to help us get better microphones and just increase the overall productivity of the podcast. So, with the plugs all done, Justin, what have you been up to since I spoke with you last?
Well, since last week, I've been playing our, upcoming game, Detention, and watching The Office. I'm on the series finale, actually. So,
So is a series finale from you like the true series finale or when Michael Scott leaves? Because I stopped watching when Michael Scott leaves.
So I actually got past that part. I'm on the end of season 9 right now. I'm getting ready to tuck in for a 1-hour finale. It really did go downhill after Michael Scott left, but
it did.
I hear he makes a return for the finale, so I'm looking forward to that.
He's there briefly.
You know what? I'll take it. I've been waiting for him to come back for 2 seasons, so... What about yourself, Larry? What have you been up to?
So I was also playing Detention, and I ended up beating it today. I went and saw The Meg.
Oh, how was it?
I liked it. It's not going to win any awards, and it's not the scariest film I've ever seen by far, but it's quite enjoyable. It's a fun little movie. And then the last thing I've kind of been working on is I'm continuing working on the Platinum for the Resident Evil remake on the PS4.
Oh, right on. How's that going? Any progress, or?
So since I've been playing Detention, I kind of put it to the side, but tonight, since I don't have to work this weekend, I intend on hopefully wrapping up Jill's campaign. But then after that, it's like the speed runs and like playing on the hardest difficulty and the invisible enemies and stuff. So
you're just getting ready for Resident Evil 2, aren't you?
I am trying my best to not get too excited. And there's a lot of games like in between now and then, luckily, like with Spyro and Fallout 76 and the new Tomb Raider. But I can't stop thinking about Resident Evil 2.
It's okay, neither can I.
All right, so with that, we're going to move on into the news section. Welcome back, podcast listeners. Now we are on to the news section for this week. We're going to be changing it up a little bit. And instead of us going back and forth, we're going to have each of us focus on the medium that we're most specialized in. So with that being said, we're going to go on over to Justin's Game Corner.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Justin's Game Corner. This week, I'm going to be bringing 2 items. The first is that Daymare 1998 gets a long-awaited teaser trailer. I don't know if you've heard about Daymare.
I have no idea what that is. Want to tell me about it?
Yeah, so I don't know if you, like, right before Resident Evil 2 Remake was announced, I don't know if you saw the guy making his, like, a fan-made Resident Evil 2 Remake in Unity.
No, I did not know that.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I guess, like, right after Capcom announced that they were doing, like, the official Resident Evil 2 Remake, he stopped doing that. I mean, you can still find gameplay of it, and it looks really good. But he decided to go on to, like, his own new game, I guess you could say. Like, it'll be his first game. There isn't really a bunch of stuff out there. Like, you can see some gameplay of it. It's mostly like a third-person shooter. It looks pretty creepy. Other than that, there's really not much. It's so early on, but I don't know. It looks cool, and I definitely want to keep an eye out for it.
All right, cool.
The last piece of news is something that really excites me, actually. There's going to be a new Evil Dead game, and not the VR one, and it's going to be starring Bruce Campbell.
Evil Dead game. So what's the plot of that going to look like?
Well, again, like with the last the Daymare thing, they haven't really said much about it. The
Mhm.
only reason people know this exists is because I guess Bloody Disgusting had like an exclusive interview with Bruce Campbell, and they asked him if he would still be doing Ash's voice for video games, and he was just like, "Oh yeah, like I have previous obligations that I have to fulfill. They are doing a video game, a whole immersive kind of dealio. I'll be Ash for that because I wouldn't want someone else's voice hamming it up." So literally, there's nothing else about it, but like, have you played any of the Evil Dead games?
I wasn't even aware there were Evil Dead games. I mean, I've seen all the movies, but I even the remake, and I've seen the musical too. But I did not know there were games.
I know, I can't really remember there was a PS1 Evil Dead game that I've always wanted to play. I've just never really gotten a chance. I think it's just called like Evil Dead Hail to the King, and it looks like
Hmm.
it's just like the first and second movie. And I know they released a couple of them for the PS2, and one of them was called like Evil Dead Regeneration or something like that. I don't know. They're really weird games. Like they're not good games, but the last Evil Dead game they released was on PS2. So I have a little bit of hope that it'll be a little bit better, but who knows?
I'm at least willing to see what they come up with.
Yeah. Like that's the thing, right? Is like it's so much different now than it was back then. So I'm sure they have lots of money anyways, so especially
Hmm.
with like Ash versus the Evil Dead being canceled.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Well, I'm sure we'll hear more about that in like a couple months. And now we're going to be moving on to Larry's movie note.
All right. Welcome in, everybody. I have three pieces of news for this week. The first is Justin. If I was going to ask you how old do you think Freddy versus Jason is, what would your guess be?
So I saw Freddy vs. Jason when I was, well, I don't want to give away my age, so in blank year, how old are you when you're in grade 9?
I guess it depends on, I don't know.
Okay, I'm going to throw out a guess that it is like 17.
Close. 15. It is the 15th anniversary of Freddy versus Jason.
Damn.
For those of you who have somehow avoided watching that fantastic movie, Jason Voorhees takes on Freddy Krueger, and a bunch of teenagers get in the way, and it's a giant bloodbath, and it's fantastic. It's by no means all that scary, although it does have some parts where it's pretty spooky. But to watch Freddy and Jason just go at it with each other is fantastic, and you should definitely take the time to see it.
Yeah, I mean, even if you kind of split it down the middle and you don't watch the end, I think it makes for a good like second half of a Freddy movie or a Jason movie.
No, I absolutely agree with you. And I won't lie, there's always a rumor that there'd be a sequel, Freddy versus Jason versus Michael, but it never happened.
See, I've read the comic of Freddy versus Jason versus Ash,
Hmm.
which was fantastic, and I always heard the rumor that that was going to be a movie, but somehow I knew it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I don't know. Maybe if we start writing some letters, we can make some changes. I don't know. The next piece of news that I have is that Stephen King's classic Maximum Overdrive is coming to Blu-ray. Have you seen this gem, Justin?
So I haven't finished this movie.
How have you not finished it? It's so great.
You know what? I can't take the voice actress of Lisa Simpson seriously. Like, not.
The voice actor, Lisa. Which one's she?
Isn't she the.
Is she the wife? Is she the wife of the guy?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that. I had no idea that was who that was.
Yeah, it's kind of like now if I were to watch anything with Jim Halpert in it. I couldn't take it seriously.
So for our audience, if you're not aware of what Maximum Overdrive is about, it came out in 1986, and it's the only movie that Stephen King's ever directed. Plot of the movie is that a comet passes by Earth, and for some reason, there's something in the tail of the comet that causes all the machines to want to kill humans. And there's semi trucks running people down, and there's lawnmowers chasing kids on bikes, and soda machines chucking cans at people. It is great. It is worth your time. It's on Amazon right now, but I think it's worth a Blu-ray purchase. And it will be out on Blu-ray on October 23rd. So the last piece of news I have this week, I went and saw it, like I mentioned, what I've been up to, but The Meg actually overperformed at the box office last weekend. It opened at 44.5 million domestic, which is crazy because it was only projected to open with about less than $20 million.
Really? So are they already making the sequel then, or?
So I don't want to spoil the movie, but there was no like post credit, there was no tease. It was just this is what the movie is, which is nice. It was nice to go to a movie and not have like, let me
Like,
tell you what the next 7 movies are going to be.
yeah, like it has a sense of finality, really.
And it was great. I mean, Jason Statham takes his shirt off, so I mean, I'm there for that. The dude's jacked. And yeah, it was cool because the other main character, which you don't really see very often, was an Asian American woman, and she was and, like I haven't seen a movie like an American style movie with that in it, and it was good. It was a very very good movie. But 44.5 million domestic is actually better than Ready Player One, Rampage, and Ocean's 8.
Really?
Yeah, it really really crushed it. So
I haven't seen Ready Player One. I hear mixed things now that it's had some time to breathe. I know at first everybody was hating on it.
So I loved the book. I thought the book was fantastic. I thought that the book not only had the video game aspect and like the quest, but it also had a lot of good social commentary.
Okay.
And I feel like the movie dropped the majority of the social commentary and it dropped the quest aspect, which was really sad, in favor of just a bunch of cameos and Easter eggs. I really thought, honestly, I think if I hadn't read the book, the movie would have been better for me. I don't know. I normally think that books do better than the movie. In this case, I really feel that way. But if you haven't read the book, I think the movie's a good time.
So the biggest thing I hear from Ready Player One is that they recreated parts of The Shining in it.
They did. Yeah, they did. That's right.
That I don't know why, but that's literally all I heard about it.
Yeah, that was not in the book. That was not in the book.
Okay.
But no, that was actually probably my favorite part because I was not ready for it. It was done pretty cool.
All right. Well, I have some movies I have to go see then.
So with that, we're going to wrap up the news and we're going to head into our topic for this week, which is ghost stories. Podcast listeners, we welcome you to the Here's Johnny version of the Midnight Society, where for our first season on ghosts, we are going to talk about a brief history of the ghost story, what ghost stories have done for Justin and I, and then we're actually going to tell a couple ghost stories of ourselves. Are you ready to submit your stories for the approval of the Midnight Society, Justin?
I am. I feel like I should be talking in this calm, cool voice.
You have to. You gotta set the tone,
Yeah.
the vibe.
Okay.
We're sitting. Imagine you're sitting by a fire.
Okay. I think Netflix has the. Oh no, that's only near Christmas where they have the fireplace chimney.
So on HistoryChannel.com, they have an article talking about the origin of the ghost story. And the basic premise of a ghost story has to originate with the idea that a person's soul is separate from their physical body. And sometimes the soul can be trapped on Earth due to either an extreme emotion, a terrible occurrence, or the body of the person who departed wasn't put properly to rest. One of the first recorded ghost stories actually comes from a famous Roman author and statesman called Pliny the Younger in the 1st century AD. And he actually wrote about a specter of an old man who had a long beard and drug chains that haunted his house in Athens. And the first story of a poltergeist that's recorded in written history comes from modern day Germany in 836 AD. And apparently this family moved into this farmhouse, and it sounds like an Amityville Horror kind of story. There was just things are being thrown against the walls, animals are being set free, things weren't where they put them. So you can see that this idea of a ghost story has been around literally since the turn of the millennium. So Justin, for you, growing up and even today, how have ghost stories impacted you?
So, as we talked about, I don't think we actually talked about it on the show, is that I'm the youngest of four, so I've got two older brothers and an older sister, and they used to love to torture me. I mean, I don't blame them. If I had a younger sibling, I would torture them as well. But yeah, no, they just used to tell me, like, I can't really think of a specific ghost story, but they would just tell me about how people have died in our house, even though thinking about it now, we were like the first owners of this house. Like, nobody lived here before us, but yeah, they used to tell us that. Tell me that, yeah, people have died in the house and that everything's haunted, and they would make sure to tell me this on nights that they're babysitting me, and after I went to bed, they would start rattling stuff around in the house and hitting the floor underneath the bedroom. And when I would wake up and run out into the hallway to see what was happening, they would all act like they didn't see it or hear it. Ghosts have always freaked me out ever since that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say if I believe in them or not. I know it can be controversial, I guess. Yeah, I never was a big camper. I never did like the whole tell a story around the campfire thing, but perfect example is I remember watching the original Poltergeist. Well, being forced to watch the original Poltergeist when I was very young, probably about 4. And my brother telling me that it was real and that it was actually happened to our next door neighbor before they moved in beside us. So
oh my.
yeah. So I never really got told a lot of ghost stories per se, but they would just kind of make it seem like there were ghosts in the house to scare me, or that, oh, the person beside us has actually been dead for 20 years and they're here to haunt me. And
so with that kind of history with ghost stories, do you still like them today? Like, do you tell them, like, will you tell them to your children one day? Like, is that something you want to pass on?
I don't think I'll be as brutal. I definitely wouldn't want to absolutely terrify them, but if I get the chance, I might tell a ghost story here or there. How have they impacted your life, Larry?
Yeah, so as I said in the first episode, and I'm sure people have picked up, I have always chased this idea of being afraid. And that goes back to like hanging out in abandoned insane asylums, going in places that are supposed to be haunted. I remember one year I spent 4th of July in an old abandoned cemetery with a Ouija board. Like, I love ghost stories. The first time I ever remember hearing one was probably about 4 or 5. We were at some campground, and my uncle started telling this story about this little kid who was out boating with his family, and he fell off the boat, and he doesn't wear his life vest, so it was hard to see him in the rolling waves. And his family came back to pick him up, and they couldn't see him, and they ended up running him over and taking his head off. And they found the head, but they never found the body. And that every night, if you were looking down by the shore, you would see this headless boy walking around the shore looking for his head. And if he spotted you, he would come and take yours to see if it fit on his shoulders. So,
Yikes.
as a 4 or 5-year-old, that's not something that allows you to have peaceful dreams. And then I also had the scary story to tell in the dark. I'm not sure if that's something they have in Canada with all the creepy artistry drawings and stuff. Yeah, that was my school library, and you always had goosebumps and stuff. Now, like when you're older, right, there's creepypasta and there's plenty of ghost stories on there. But no, there's something about a well-told ghost story. And truly, I think if you talk to anybody and they're comfortable enough with you, I think everybody has some kind of experience with the paranormal or with ghosts in general that they can share and kind of give you their take. And that's why I think I don't know, but I think ghosts have to be real because there's so many like documented occurrences throughout history and through individual people that I think that it makes sense that something like this could happen. But I don't know. I love the idea of a ghost story, and I love how it just fits fall, right? You're sitting around a campfire, you're sitting there talking, and someone says, "Hey, tell me a story." He's You get a nice ghost story. I don't know. There's just something about them. I love them. I love them so much. And so with that, Justin and I would like to share two ghost stories each, famous ghost stories, kind of tell the audience the ghost story and then give you a little bit of historical reference. And we're also having a competition this week. The poll will be on Twitter, and we want our audience to tell us who delivers the better ghost story. So we flipped a coin earlier, and I found out that I'm going first. So, Justin, are you ready to do this?
I'm ready to be spooked.
All right. So the first story that I have to share for the approval of the Here's Johnny Midnight Society is the tale of the Flying Dutchman. Justin, I want to tell you a story of Captain Hendrik Vanderdecken and his ship, the Flying Dutchman. In 1641, Captain Vanderdecken decided, in order to save time and to make a higher profit, he was going to sail around the Cape of Good Hope in South Africa, knowing full well that a terrible storm was rolling in. Captain Vanderdecken was notorious for being prideful and for thinking that he was better than every living man and even better than God. So he tells his crew to ready up, load the ship, and they take off. Just as predicted, the storm starts rolling in as they're out in the middle of the ocean. The crew, at this point terrified, decides to become mutinous, kill Captain Vanderdecken, and take the ship back to port. However, Captain Vanderdecken did not become so prideful by being a weak or easily overthrown man. So, by himself, he kills the rebel leader, throws him into the ocean, and tells the rest of the mutiny crew that when they get back to dry land, he is going to hang them all, regardless of the outcome of this mission. It was at this point that things started getting a little bit weird. The ship, the Flying Dutchman, asked the captain if he really meant to take her out into the storm. The captain replied to the ship, "May I be eternally damned if I do, though I should beat about here till the day of judgment." So, as the storm continues to get worse, Captain Vanderdecken continues to push his ship further and further into the storm. It was too late before Captain Vanderdecken realized he had damned his ship, his crew, and himself to a watery grave. However, that sweet peace of death was not in his cards. The ship spoke to Captain Vanderdecken again. "As a result of your actions, you are condemned to sail the oceans for all eternity with a ghostly crew of dead men, bringing death to all who sight your spectral ship, and to never make port or know a moment's peace. Furthermore, gall shall be your drink, and red-hot iron your meat." The captain, prideful and boastful until his last gasping breath, replied, "Amen to that." And with that, a giant wave came, swallowed the ship, and the Flying Dutchman, Captain Vanderdecken, and his crew were never seen living again. However, tales still exist of a spectral ship floating the oceans, riding on a storm. And however, the people who spot this ship never live long to tell their tale. Sometimes the ship will lead other ships into a rocky grave. Others who spot the ship from shore will end up dying mysterious deaths days later. So, if you're ever by the ocean and you're watching the storm roll in, it might be best to not stare too long. For if you see the Flying Dutchman and her ghostly crew, it may mean that a gruesome death is in your near future. How was that?
That was good. That was good. I liked it. I liked it.
All right, so I have some fun pop culture notes about
Okay.
the Flying Dutchman and her captain Vanderdecken.
Yeah.
The story had been told, like I said, since 1641, because this is based on a true story. Some parts, obviously, the ship talking back can be
Yeah.
debated, but Richard Wagner, the famous composer, wrote an opera called The Flying Dutchman in 1843, and that really started spreading the popularity of the story. Um, Captain Vanderdecken and his ship have also made a ton of appearances in the modern pop culture media. That goes from like Pirates of the Caribbean to SpongeBob SquarePants,
Oh, that's where I know it best from.
and Scooby Doo also had an episode with him in it. And then I was looking around, and the most famous encounter that I found of a historical figure talking about seeing the Flying Dutchman occurred on July 11th in 1881. It was spotted by King George V, who at that time was Prince George of Wales, and him and his brother were sailing off the coast of Australia. And in the official ship logs, it is stated that the guy in the crow's nest around 4 a.m. spotted the ghostly ship, alerted the crew, and the ship passed by them no more than 200 feet away. And then later that morning, the sailor who first spotted it, the sailor up in the crow's nest, actually fell to his death. But that is legitimately in like recorded British history of King George V swearing that he saw the Flying Dutchman.
I don't know. I feel like it's weird that like a ghost sighting is in like real history.
Yeah, and not only that, like I said, it's 1881. Like this isn't like super old. This is less than 200 years ago. And it's pretty crazy stuff. I mean, America had already been around for over 100 years. Like it's pretty nuts when you kind of put it in perspective. So yeah, that is the tale of the Flying Dutchman. Justin, why don't you go ahead and tell me your ghost story?
And now for the approval of the Here's Johnny Midnight Society, I tell you the story of the Headless Horseman. One cold winter night early in the new year, a soldier was leaving a pub in Terrytown and started walking home. On his way home, he had to walk by a cemetery where a headless soldier was buried. The man was nervous about passing the cemetery, remembering the rumors. A headless ghost riding a horse, as he stumbled along humming to himself to keep up his courage. Suddenly, that's when he caught the light rising out of the cemetery. He stopped, hearing his heart pounding in his ears. A white mist burst from the unmarked grave and formed into a large horse carrying a headless rider. The man let out a terrible scream. He took to his heels, running as fast as he could. Running across the bridge, he knew that the ghosts could not come across running water. Suddenly, he fell, rolling over the bridge. The headless rider ran past him, and the man got a second look at the headless ghost. It was wearing a soldier's outfit. The man waited an hour before getting out of the water. He could hear the bushes, hear the running water, feel the running water. After gathering his strength, the man went home and told his wife about the ghost that he saw. Nobody believed him, but every night he went out to this road, and at around midnight every night he would always see the horse carrying the soldier without the head. And for whatever reason, the Headless Horseman continues to roam these roads to this day. I don't know. How was that? I don't know. That was bad. I know.
No, that was good. That was good. I mean, for our audience, if you aren't aware, Justin does not normally tell ghost stories, and he doesn't feel the most comfortable doing it. But I think he did a pretty good job. So a nice virtual round of applause for you.
It only took like 45 minutes.
So, Justin, do you have any cultural notes on the Headless Horseman for us?
Yeah, I do actually. While I was doing some research, so yeah, it was all completely made up by the author of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, Washington Irving. He did actually meet someone named Ichabod Crane. I guess he was like a military man. He actually served in the War of 1812. Yeah, mostly it was just completely made up. It turns out that Sleepy Hollow wasn't even really a real place. Um,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, up until 1996, uh, the place it was based in, like Terrytown, they actually like adopted the name Sleepy Hollow, like gaining a lot of popularity, and so now when you go there, you can get bumper stickers that say like
Huh,
my horse or my head has been taken by the headless horseman and stuff like that. But yeah,
that's sweet.
there wasn't surprisingly much to to find out about this story. So
Have you seen the Tim Burton movie?
yes, I have. And I will be forever terrified of what's his name? I can't think of his name.
Walken? Christopher Walken?
Christopher Walken.
Yeah, that's actually a really fun movie. I actually liked it a whole lot.
I haven't seen it recently, but reading up on like this, the Legend of Sleepy Hollow makes me want to watch it again. So who knows? Maybe I'll watch it tonight.
All right, and so with that, I'm going to move on to my second story. So, again, for the approval of the Here's Johnny Midnight Society, I submit to you the tale of the Vanishing Hitchhiker. A young couple are driving home from their family's house late one night. They left far later than they intended to, so it's very dark out and a fog is rolling in. The young man decides to take some back roads because he feels that he can cut some time off and get him home because it's late and they want to get home. As they're driving down these dark and desolate roads, off to the right curb, they see a young woman with their thumb held out, obviously looking for a ride. The husband doesn't think twice and continues to drive on. His wife compels him to stop and says, "We can't leave her out here. It's so late. It's so foggy. She could get hit. We need to go pick her up and see where she needs to go." So, reluctantly, the husband puts his car in reverse and backs up to the woman. They roll their window down and start talking to this young girl and ask her where she's heading. And she said, "It's a few miles up the road. My parents live across from a gas station. You'll know which house it is by the roses in the front yard." And so the husband and wife tell her to get in and say, "We have no problem taking you there." When the girl gets in the car, she thanks them and says that her parents are probably terrified. There's no way they could possibly know where she's been. With that, she gets quiet, and the couple continue to drive up the road looking for the house across from the gas station with the roses in the front yard. As they come to an intersection, they see the gas station and they see the house. However, the roses aren't there anymore and the house looks kind of old. So the husband turns around into the back seat while he's stopped at the intersection and to ask the woman, "Is this your house?" However, she's not there. The only thing in the back seat is the scarf that she was wearing. The husband, visibly afraid, along with his wife, pull into the driveway in order to look and see where this girl is. Like, is she laying on the floor? Is she hiding? Like, what's going on? While they're doing this, the front porch lights on the house turn on, and an elderly couple step out. They approach the young couple. The old man asks the young man what's going on. The young man gets the impression that the old man knows what's going on, but still tells him that they picked up this young girl on the road, that she said she lived in a house similar to this, and that when they got close to bringing her there, she was no longer in the car. The old woman starts to cry softly beside him, and the old man puts his arm around his wife and says, "Don't worry, you can stop looking. We know who this is." And that's when the old man begins to tell the young couple the tale of their young daughter who was out riding her bike home one day when she was struck by a car. No one ever found the driver of the car that hit her, but the young girl did not make it. And now, every so often, usually on the anniversary of her death, she'll appear on the road to someone driving along it, asking for a ride home. The couple is visibly terrified at this point. The old man offers to allow them to come inside, collect themselves, have a cup of coffee, and then they can continue on their way. But the young husband and wife want nothing more than to get out of there and get home and put this entire episode behind them. So with that, they get in their car, start to drive away, staring at the old couple crying on their front lawn with the scarf still sitting in their back seat. Boom! Tale of the Vanishing Hitchhiker.
Damn, that's creepy shit.
Have you heard that one before?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, this one's actually quite popular, especially in America. There are several different like local varieties to the story. Like there's a story specifically in Chicago, and she's called Homesick Mary, and the the spectral ghost is supposedly encountered near Resurrection Cemetery in Justice, Illinois. In Northern California, she's called the White Witch of Niles Canyon. And in Dallas, Texas, they call her the Lady of White Rock Lake. There's different variations to this story. And then I actually found a lot of like peer-reviewed journal articles on the Vanishing Hitchhiker. And according to Jan Harold Brunvald, who is a noted expert in American urban legend, he describes this story as the most often collected and most discussed of all contemporary legends. And that comes from his book, The Vanishing Hitchhiker, American Urban Legends and Their Meanings from 1981. So yeah, and it's not, like I said, it's not as scary. It doesn't have a big punch. It's more sad. Really kind of sad overall. But yeah, that's what I have for that one. Up in Canada, do you guys have anything like that?
No, not really. I mean, I'm sure if like something like a tub of maple syrup went missing, we'd hear about it, but who knows?
All right, Justin. So with that, why don't you tell me your second ghost story?
I submit for approval to the Here's Johnny Midnight Society, the legend of Bloody Mary. Tonight, Michelle is having a slumber party for her 17th birthday with her 4 best friends. While sitting around and gossiping, Michelle hears the story that if you spin around with the lights turned off and your eyes closed and say Bloody Mary 3 times, a woman will appear in the mirror and show you a picture of your future husband. So, later on at night, around midnight, after hearing about this, Michelle's friends trick her into trying it by herself. She goes into the bathroom, turns off the lights, closes her eyes, and spins around and chants the words, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody, and then the lights flicker. She stops. She opens her eyes, and there it is, a woman in white, covered in blood. She screams and screams and tries to get out of the bathroom, but the door is locked. She yells to her friends, oh, please, please unlock the door. But they just giggle and don't open the door. Eventually the screaming stops, and the friends, curious, open the door, and there they see Michelle in the bathtub with her throat slit, covered in blood with a terrified look on her face. They look into the mirror, and just for a second, you can see Michelle's reflection standing beside the girl in white. How was that? Not great.
It wasn't
probably.
bad, man. It wasn't bad. I've heard worse.
Yeah, it was bad. It's okay. Again.
We'll get you ready to talk to people. It's
Yeah,
okay.
again, super uncomfortable. But hey, now I don't have to do another one.
Not for a while.
Yeah.
So no, Bloody Mary. It's a pretty popular one.
Yeah. So, the most interesting thing about this is like, I was trying to find what the main story of Bloody Mary was based off of, and there's some contention. But yeah, so I found like a bunch of origin stories. Like there's, I guess, Mary Tudor, who is Mary the First.
One of the poor king's wives.
Yeah, I guess she was like commonly known as Bloody Mary. I guess she was like just very violent. But yeah, and then there's like a bunch more through history. She's really the only one that's like of any real interest. But it's weird. I also found like, I guess the Queen of Spades is like Russian's version of Bloody Mary. And Veronica is the Spanish version of Bloody Mary.
Veronica. Okay.
And then the Japanese even have like their own version. It's called like, I'm going to try to say this, and I'm sorry if I say it wrong, Kushisaki Onna, or the Slit-Mouth Woman.
Ugh.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what that looks like. Ugh.
Yeah, there's a picture here, and it's
Oh, I don't need to see it. That's okay.
Yeah, no, I won't. But yeah, it's interesting because I think this is probably one of the like more popular horror stories that's made its way into popular culture more. Like,
I think there was a movie on it, wasn't there?
yeah, it was like one of the Urban Legends movie
Mm-hmm.
was I think it was called like Urban Legends Bloody Mary or something like that. But I know like the horror movie Candyman is like a retelling of they just changed out Candyman for Bloody Mary.
Candyman is actually a pretty good movie.
Oh, I know. It actually, apart from the two older brothers, I also have an older sister, and she wouldn't look in a mirror for like 3 years when we were younger.
Really? Because of Candyman?
Yeah, I mean, again, my older brothers were dicks and would like force us. Like, my sister's a lot closer to me in age than like my two older brothers are like probably like 7 years, I think like 7 years older than me. So they would make us like watch movies like Candyman all the time when we were way too young to watch it. Yeah.
Oh
But
man.
yeah. Yeah.
All right, guys. So with that, those are our ghost stories. We hope you like them. Remember, probably on Wednesday we'll post a Twitter poll. Just let us know who you think tells a better ghost story.
And I won't be offended.
And this week we only got one response. Maybe that wasn't clear enough, but we did get a response, and someone told us a ghost story. So I'm going to share that. This is from Zach, Larry, and Justin. I wanted to start off by saying I have enjoyed your show thus far, so keep up the good work. On your last show, you asked for listeners to send in a ghost story. Well, I have one for you. So this incident happened when I was 5 years old. My younger brother and I shared a bedroom together, and on occasion, my older brother would come in before bedtime and tell stories to us. One night, he came in and started the story off by telling us that John Elway died in this very room 100 years ago on this day. Tonight is his anniversary of his death, and he likes to throw and knock things over. Not even 2 minutes later, the 15-pound gumball machine I had on my dresser went flying 10 feet across the room. I ran down the flight of stairs yelling, John Elway's in my room! John Elway's in my room! I was so scared I couldn't tell you what my parents did to calm me down that night because I was so terrified. I know you're probably thinking that there are a lot of holes in the story, like John Elway is still alive and my room is on the third floor and wasn't added onto the house until I was born. But my 5-year-old self did not know this at the time. Even to this day, my older brother swears that he had nothing to do with a gumball machine flying across the room. That's my ghost story, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it, even though it scared the crap out of me. It's funny now to see my 5-year-old self running down the steps yelling, John Elway's in my room at the top of my lungs. Looking forward to the next show, so keep them coming, Larry and Justin. Well, thanks, Zach. And
Thank you. I'm sorry that the Denver Broncos terrify you now then.
yeah, but that's exactly what I was looking for. Like I told the story about my uncle telling me about the headless kid haunting the lake we used to go to. Like it's good. And like that, like even though it's kind of goofy to us now, like as a 5-year-old kid, you don't know who John Elway is from anybody. So to hear that kind of story,
I didn't even know who John Elway was. I had to look him up.
but yeah, I mean, to a kid, they don't know. Like you can tell them any name, right? You could tell them anything and they'll believe it, and that's kind of the fun, the ghost stories. So thank you for sharing. And like, there's just so many good ones, and that's probably the best thing about horror is that it's ever changing, and with it coming from word of mouth, right? It's going to continue to be passed down. So I'm sure Zach will probably tell his kids about it. I know that I'll probably tell my kids about the headless boater along with all the other ones. And as we've seen, like the Vanishing Hitchhiker and Bloody Mary and the Headless Horseman and Flying Dutchman, like they're very old stories that still have a lot of impact on today's pop culture. But with that, we're going to wrap up ghost stories. We're going to close this meeting of the Midnight Society, and we are going to head on into reviews. All right, everyone, welcome back to the Here's Johnny podcast, and we are now in our review section. This week, we were lucky enough to get one more review. And Justin, why don't you go ahead and read that for our audience?
Yeah, sure thing. So this review comes to us by The Sweater Vest. And they say, I listened to the pilot when it came out, and it interested me enough to want to hear more. 3 episodes in, and I really like where this podcast is heading. I like that the podcast speaks broadly across the horror genre, including movies, games, and other fun stuff. I've already learned a bunch of interesting facts and tidbits. Larry and Justin seem committed to developing relationships with their listeners, which is more than I can say for some other podcasts I've listened to. And that was a 5-star review. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Sweater Vest. And the thing you hit on is something we're really trying to do. We want to have a nice dialogue because just like with the ghost stories, right? It's more fun to tell them to more people. It's more fun to have horror and interact between people. So thank you for seeing that. We're going to try to continue to work and improve on it.
Yeah, and we don't want to just become like a just review. Like we don't want to review something like every week, right? Like we want to have weeks where we kind of just have fun with stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff when it comes to horror. Like I love the ghost story. I thought that was a lot of fun this week, and we have some other ones coming up too that won't just be reviews. So yeah, thanks for the review. We really appreciate it. And with that, we're going to wrap up the review section for this week and go ahead and head up into the closing. It's closing time here again for the Here's Johnny podcast. Justin, how did you like this week's episode?
It was good. It was a little rough for me. I'm not a great public speaker, even though it's not very public.
It's just the idea. I can understand that. I really liked it. It's our first episode not doing a review since the pilot, and the pilot was more of like an outline for the show. But I like this episode. I'm hopeful we get some nice feedback from our listeners, and hopefully they like this kind of episode too. But I think it's kind of fun.
I mean, it did give me a little bit of a terror flashbacks to, I don't know if in America you guys have to do like speeches every year from like grade 3 onwards.
I mean, I did speech and debate actually for 4 years in high school and then 2 years in college. I like public speaking, so.
Oh yeah, like, wait, so you guys didn't have to like research a topic and then have like a 20-minute speech about it just in front of the whole class?
We had classes once in a while, but I mean, for me, I took it even further, and I competed like every single weekend against other people. Yeah, I even coached a team for a little bit too. Yeah, I like talking in front of people.
Oh, I could not do that.
So this week we have another question of the episode, and this is one that me and Justin are kind of. I think we hinted at this earlier on in the podcast. We're actually going to put it out to our audience because we can't agree, and I kind of want to see where our listeners take it. So the question of the episode is this: do you consider games like Arkham Asylum and Alice Madness Returns as horror games, even though they do not normally get classified as a horror game? So the premise for this, and I'll use Arkham Asylum since it was far more played, is in Arkham Asylum, there's a lot of scary material, especially when it comes to the Scarecrow. One scene in particular I can point to is when Batman's walking through the morgue and his dead parents' bodies start like sitting up and talking to him. Like the first time I played Arkham Asylum, that spooked the crap out of me.
I'm just see. I mean, I guess from this you could tell which side we're both on. But yeah, I don't know. Like other than the Scarecrow stuff, which is, I agree, the Scarecrow stuff could be considered like on the horror-y side of things, but like. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I feel like just the game overall.
Yeah, exactly. Like I would never say that Arkham Asylum is a horror game. However, I mean, I won't lie. I think it was more terrifying than Clock Tower.
Oh well, Clock Tower wasn't terrifying.
Yeah. So we just more want some user feedback because I mean, only having 2 people, it's hard to break a tie. And if anything, I'd probably lean more in Justin's favor in thinking that these games aren't really horror because they think they're not, right? You never find Arkham Asylum or Alice in the horror section. But I think there's an easy argument to be made that they could be considered one, and we want to hear your feedback.
Yeah, it kind of gives us an idea of like where we can go with games as well, because I mean, for the people out there who play a lot of horror games, compared to movies, there's not a ton. And some of these genres, we're going to be asking, I think, for a little bit of forgiveness when it comes to games.
Yeah, and we don't want to sit in one series the entire time either, right? Because there's so many Resident Evil spin-offs, and the Resident Evil games don't all fit in zombie, right? Because some of them aren't actually zombie games. So I'm trying to just broaden the base and getting more games that people have heard of, because Clock Tower 3 isn't the most popular of games. I mean, I'd never even heard of it until Justin brought it up for the review. So yeah, we're just trying to figure some stuff out. So respond, send us an email, and let us know what you think. Also, we have decided to share the roadmap for the rest of this season. So next week, like we discussed earlier in the episode, we are going to be reviewing the game called Detention. The game is available on the Switch, PSN, and Steam.
Yeah, and I mean, the reason we're kind of only giving a short, like a week heads up, is it is a very short game. I think it's like 4 hours or something like that. Like I don't know. I mean, I haven't beat it yet.
No. It's not very long, and not to spoil it too much, but it is a far scarier game than Clock Tower 3 was.
Oh, yeah. I mean, from what I've played of it so far, I'm like... it has me checking over my shoulders every once in a while. And yeah, it's definitely a lot better of a horror game so far.
And so it's easily accessible, and yeah, if you guys get a chance, play it and send us in your thoughts on it before next week. Then after that, on September 3rd, we're going to be releasing an episode focusing on director James Wan. You'll know him because he directed films such as The Conjuring, Insidious, Fast and Furious, and the upcoming Aquaman movie.
Really? He's doing Aquaman?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that's a little weird.
Well, not really. It's like obviously he cut his teeth in horror, but if you look at, like I said, he did Fast and the Furious. He's a really, really, really talented director, and I'm actually kind of excited to see what he does with it because he's good. I mean, I don't. He also did Saw, so yeah, his credentials are pretty speak for themselves.
I mean, I haven't seen Fast and the Furious, like any of
Neither
them.
have I. I've only seen the first one, and that was enough for me.
Yeah.
I have been tempted to watch the one with The Rock and Jason Statham because I think that's just the most fun ever. But beyond that, no, I've only ever seen the first one. And then on September 10th, following up with our James Wan spotlight, we are going to be reviewing one of my favorite ghost movies, The Conjuring.
Yeah, I mean, it's a terrifying movie. I mean, I've only seen it once, maybe twice. I know I saw it in theaters. I don't think I've seen it since then, but
oh really?
Yeah, I've only seen it once, and it terrified me.
I've seen it so many times. It's such a good movie. I've brought this up so many times, but my favorite kind of horror is one that you don't need blood, where it's like situational and it's sounds and stuff, and it's done so well. So I'm really, really excited to watch that one critically. Then the final episode of the season, which will be on September 17th, is going to be a crappy horror movie review and season wrap up. And this is going to be a little bit of fun because Justin and I picked out 4 what are considered crappier horror movies. We're going to post a poll out on SurveyMonkey. We'll post it in the show notes. We'll post it on Twitter and on Facebook and on the website. Just hop out there, rank these 4 movies, and then whatever our audience decides is their favorite, we're going to pick it. The 4 movies are, drum roll please, Justin.
Okay, hold on.
13 Ghosts, Darkness Falls.
Do I keep going with the drum roll?
No, that was perfect.
Okay.
That was perfect. The Ginger Dead Man.
Oh, God.
And Dark Water. On the SurveyMonkey link for the movies, there's also YouTube links to the trailers, so you can check those out. Yeah, 13 Ghosts and Darkness Falls are pretty popular ones. Ginger Dead Man looks terrible.
So is that going to be kind of like Night of the Living Bread?
I've never even heard of that, but probably. Yeah, if you watch the trailer for Ginger Dead Man, it sounds like a murderer got killed.
Oh, don't tell me anymore. Don't tell me anymore. I'm gonna go into that. If it is that movie, I'm gonna go in completely dark.
It is ridiculous looking, but fun in the same way. But yeah, so for the next 3 weeks, we'll have that poll up. Just hop in there, only one vote per person. And yeah, we'll figure it out. We're excited to see which one we get to review. Also, with that, again, we'll also have the poll out this week, so you can tell us who told the better Gary story. And with that, we're going to get into some plugs, and we're going to get you on out of here this week. So, Justin, why don't you go ahead and start us off?
Yeah, sure thing. So again, if you want to email the show, you can email us at here'sjohnnypodcast@gmail.com. You can follow me on Twitter at PickleThing and the show at here'sjohnnycast.
You could also follow me at BeaverLA. The link to the Discord, as always, will be included in the show notes. And if you are interested, my blog post comes out every Tuesday. And so far, I have the written review on The Shining. Last week, I posted the 5 things you can do to survive a scary movie situation, which caused a little bit of consternation among some people, but I think it was funny. So we'll see what you guys think. There's also the Facebook page. Just hop on there and type in Here's Johnny Podcast, and it'll come right up.
Yeah, and you can take a look at our website. Actually, Larry made it. It's here'sjohnnypodcast.wixsite.com/horror. That's here'sjohnnypodcast.wixsite.com/horror. If you have a second, check out our Patreon. I am going to be changing some stuff up on our Patreon. I just kind of want to make it more accessible. I think it's a little ridiculous right now, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of made it for fun, and like I said, we never really expected anything. But
yeah, exactly.
That's your baby, man. I'm cool with whatever you want to do.
Yeah, and like just to remind everybody too that like if for whatever crazy reason you do decide to go with the Patreon, every dollar is going to go back into the show to get us better mics, better recording equipment, maybe eventually sometime down the line a mixer. Who knows?
Yeah, and then also, again, on the website, if you hop on there, that's where the blog posts are posted. I'm trying to convince Justin to write one too.
I'm thinking about it.
We have a calendar on there where you can see what the episodes are, direct links to all of our social media, the definitions for all the categories are on there, and I'm also currently working on uploading our review scores. So, all right, Justin, anything else you want to share with the audience before we wrap it up for the week?
Yeah, actually, so I have my second child arriving any day now. So we do have stuff in place for how we're gonna.
The episodes will still come out on time, and they're not pre-recorded. They're still recorded the week. Yeah, even though life events might pop up, we are planning on providing fresh, original content each week, and not rely on banked episodes.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, it honestly, like, let's say for whatever reason next week, right before we recorded, the child came. I mean, I would take an hour or two the next day just to sit down, record, and then we'd figure it out from there. Like, we don't plan on hopefully ever having pre-recorded episodes.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that me and Justin both agree. For the Here's Johnny podcast, we really want to focus on providing original content and rapid feedback from our audience. So if you guys say something to us, we want to reply back to you within the same week, because it's important to us. That dialogue is important, so we want to keep focused on that. But before we let you go, we want to remind our audience that if you're driving down the road late at night and you see a young girl asking for a ride, it might be best to just keep on driving.